lost its shoe. Without the shoe, the horse was disabled and a rider could not deliver his message. Without the message, a battle was lost, and losing the battle brought down the kingdom. Philadelphia's favorite son wasn't the first sage to warn that small failings can lead to huge consequences, especially in wartime, but it seems every generation needs to relearn the lesson. Bridges collapse for want of paint and planes crash because one item was skipped on the pilot's pre-flight checklist. Then there is the US Army's failure to install a simple warning system on its combat vehicles for detecting the most common means by which enemies target them. That is a disaster still waiting to happen, but the next war in Europe could be the place where the lesson is painfully relearned. The targeting technology is lasers. Many of the world's most capable anti-tank weapons now use lasers to hit targets like tanks and troop carriers. In some cases, the weapon detects laser energy reflecting off the intended target, and homes in on it. In other cases, the weapon literally rides the laser beam to the target. In either case, the outcome can be devastating. For instance, the Russian military has a laser beam riding anti-tank missile referred to by Western intelligence as the AT-14 Kornet that can penetrate 1,000 millimeters, roughly a yard, of heavy armor from 3 miles away. The weapon has been sold to a dozen countries, including Iran and Syria. Without a laser detector to warn the missile's arrival is imminent, US soldiers in an Abrams tank or Bradley troop carrier might have no idea they are under attack. So it is worrisome that the US Army is the only major ground force in the world that lacks laser detection capability on its combat vehicles. Army leaders are aware of the danger. In fact, they stated a requirement for laser detectors on combat vehicles way back in 1994, well before the Kornet was fielded, and then went on to select the system they wanted to install on future vehicles a decade ago. But the service was bogged down fighting terrorists and the vehicles got cancelled, so not much was done. End result, US Army units in Europe may soon be facing Russian T-90 main battle tanks equipped with several different types of laser targeting devices, and have no way of knowing when any of those systems are trained on friendly armor. If a tank commander knows he or she is being targeted, they can maneuver out of harm's way or they can release obscurants like smoke to hide their tank's location. But if they don't know they are under attack, they will probably suffer a quick and horrible death. So getting laser warning systems onto US combat vehicles should be a high priority. The Army equipped its helicopters with such technology long ago, and the solution it selected during the Bush years for ground vehicles is an inexpensive adaptation of that same technology, made by UTC Aerospace Systems, a contributor to my think tank, in Danbury, Connecticut. This is not a hard thing to do. The Connecticut plant has been building laser warning systems for 35 years. But first, the Army has to provide money to fund it. Somehow, something else always seems to be a higher priority in the Army's overstretched budget. Maybe that isn't so surprising, since it wasn't until the Russian invasion of Ukraine 3 years ago that Army leaders realized they might have to fight a numerically superior, well-equipped foe in Eastern Europe. But now the danger is clear, and service leaders are scrambling to bolster their capabilities for fighting near-peer threats. When it comes to protecting combat vehicles, the Russians in Europe aren't just near-peer, they're better than us. While America's army was carrying most of the burden of combating terrorists in Iraq and Afghanistan, the Russians were equipping their own army with everything from radio jammers to unmanned aircraft to state-of-the-art laser-guided munitions. So now the US Army must play catch-up, and fast. It has recently established a Vehicle Protection Office to focus on what can be fielded quickly. Most of the emphasis seems to be on hard-kill active defenses that can intercept incoming anti-tank rounds. But you can't keep your defensive radars running all the time without becoming a beacon for enemies.